Right, stop. Before you go and have that feedback conversation with somebody, you need to make sure you're doing this one thing first before anything else. You got to do this first step. And I'm going to tell you what that is in today's video. If you are looking to be a more courageous leader and want even more advice on how to give and receive feedback effectively, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I release new videos each week. I hear from leaders all the time that one of their biggest fears is having difficult conversations and giving people feedback. Well, I'm going to take the fear out of feedback for both you and the person receiving it with the information I give you in today's video. So let's dive into today's topic. How do we take the fear out of feedback? The first part is the first letter in the STOPS acronym that I covered in another video, giving you all 5 components of effective feedback. And that first letter in the acronym, the first S, stands for safe space. And this is how we're going to take the fear out of feedback, at least initially, by creating that safe space. And this absolutely has to be step 1 when you are working on cultivating a feedback culture and giving somebody feedback. They have to feel safe. If they don't feel safe, they're not really going to hear what you have to say, and they're not going to be really willing to receive it and change their behavior. So this is absolutely step 1 when you are getting ready to give feedback to somebody. So how do you do that? I'm going to help you out. A key part in creating a safe space for feedback is in setting the stage for feedback. And when I work with clients and members of our Courageous Leaders Academy, we talk about that being the first step in cultivating a feedback culture is setting the stage. And really what that's about is creating a safe space. You're letting people know that it is safe to both give and receive feedback, that's the culture you are cultivating. And in the program and when I work with clients, I give them some activities and some guided dialogue scripts that they can use to both set the stage and create that safe space. And we don't have time to go into all of those today in this video, but I am going to give you at least one activity to help you get started in setting the stage and creating a safe space for feedback. So before we launch into the activity, I just want to give a caveat here, a note that I don't know the individual dynamics of your team, but the activity that I'm going to describe and the way that I recommend that it rolls out, it should be safe for your team to engage in this type of team meeting and process. But without knowing your team, really, it's hard for me to say for sure that this exact approach is going to work, but I've generally found that this activity is general enough and safe enough that you should be good to go with bringing your team together and engaging in this type of activity to set the stage and create a safe space to begin feedback. Okay, so for this activity, I'm going to recommend that you bring your team together. And at the time that I'm filming this video, we are in the midst of a global pandemic, and most people are still under stay-at-home orders and working remotely. But even for those of you who have worked remotely all along, or maybe will continue to work remotely, this is something you can still do through a virtual team meeting. But at the time that I started doing this activity, most people were working in a traditional office environment, and so it was conceptualized with bringing people together in an actual team meeting, but you can absolutely facilitate this in a virtual setting. It doesn't have to be sitting around a conference table together. But this is a team meeting. You'll bring everybody together, whether in person or virtually, and you're going to ask everybody to answer a series of questions and explain that you really want their open and honest feedback, that the responses are going to be anonymous, and that you really want to have their feedback and you want them to be honest with you, that you're working to set the stage to have better dialogue as a team, to receive feedback as a leader, and in that spirit, you want people to be open and honest, and that their responses are safe. You want everybody to be respectful, but that their responses are safe and it's okay for them to give you honest feedback. In order to facilitate collecting anonymous responses and feedback to this activity, the way you'll do that will differ depending on whether you are doing an in-person meeting or if you are doing something virtually. It's a little bit easier to facilitate in real time anonymous responses when you're doing an in-person meeting, because you can just pass out note cards or have the questions on pieces of paper ahead of time and pass them out to everybody, and then just collect the responses from everybody without any names on it. So it's a little easier to in real time facilitate that, but you can still collect anonymous responses from your team members virtually. And whether you have them submit the answers through SurveyMonkey in advance and just have it be anonymous, or you can create a Google form and have them submit the responses that way and keep the identifying information off of there, and they just submit their responses. If you do something like that, again, you almost need to do it in advance and then have the activity be a debrief and conversation. But it is still a way to collect those anonymous responses. And the reason you want to make this initial activity anonymous responses, again, remember, we are setting the stage for feedback. We're setting the stage for a safe space. So we're operating under the assumption that people aren't quite there yet, that they might not be comfortable giving you open and honest feedback. And so this is a way for them to get comfortable with that process of sharing feedback, but keeping it safe for them to do so. So the 4 questions that I want you to ask your team as a part of this activity. The first one, list 1 to 3 things you think our team does really well. The next is list 1 to 3 things you think our team could do better. Third, what is our team getting from me, meaning you as the leader? What is our team getting from me that is helpful? And then the 4th question, what could I do, meaning you as the leader, what could I do to help our team be more successful? So those are the 4 questions you want to ask your team as a part of this activity, and you want to allow them to respond anonymously. After facilitating the questions and you've had a chance to collect the responses, either in person where you've just collected all the hard copies, or if you've collected the responses in advance virtually and now you have all those responses, you want to, as a team, process through that feedback together. But I'm not going to have you just go ahead and read what everybody said or go through all the responses at that time. Rather, I'm going to advise you to pick 2 of the items and talk through those as your initial way to set the stage for this safe space. I want you to pick 1 to 3 of the responses, identifying what the team is doing well. So out of those responses that you received from everybody, pick 1 to 3 that identify what your team is doing well and talk through those items. Share that information with the team, get their initial thoughts, and start out by talking about what the team is doing well. And then the next piece that I want you to process through as a team, read aloud 1 or 2 of the responses, identifying what you as the leader could do better to help the team be more successful. And this is really important, and I'm very intentional in having you pick this because this is, again, setting the stage that it's okay to give you feedback. It's okay for the team to tell you what you as the leader could be doing better, but you've set it up in a way that it's safe for them to do that. And that's really important. So this is a chance to celebrate some wins. You can talk about what the team is doing really well. And then it's also a chance for you to demonstrate to the team that you're willing to receive feedback and you're willing to talk through it and apply that. One thing I want to note right now, when you are going through this activity and you're processing through the feedback and you're sharing 1 or 2 things that the team has said that you could do better as a leader to help them be more successful, I'm not expecting you to, and I really don't want you to have a response right away that, okay, yes, we're going to do that, or no, we're not going to do that. This is not about you having the answers or responding to those suggestions right away. It's just you demonstrating that you're willing to receive that feedback. So you're just going to share it. You can talk maybe through that with your team at the time, but you don't need to have the answers and you don't need to make any promises right then and there. You're just simply reading through it, talking through it, and then saying, okay, thank you all for being willing to share that with me. We'll continue to talk about that as a team. And certainly feel free to repeat this activity on a regular basis. If you do weekly or bi-weekly check-in meetings with your team, you can continue to do those 4 questions or a combination of them as you do your check-in teams. You can keep doing this. And the first couple times you use this activity, it's probably helpful to keep the responses anonymous until you really feel that your team has gotten to a place that people really feel comfortable and you think you could just have the meeting and lay out those 4 questions and ask people to openly share the feedback. That's the goal, that you'll ideally get to that place that your team is so comfortable having that dialogue that you can just in a meeting share that information. You don't need to pass out note cards or give the questions ahead of time, but it's just become part of the rhythm of your weekly meetings and your feedback culture, that you can just have those questions there and have that dialogue as a team. That's your ultimate goal. But while you work to get there, it's probably best to do a couple meetings where you allow people to share the responses anonymously and work your way up to that open dialogue format. So we've talked today a lot about that first letter in our STOPS acronym, the S, the safe space. We've talked about how important that is, and I've given you some tools on how to do that, how to set the stage and create that safe space for your team and individual team members to come to you with feedback. But there are 4 other components to the STOPS acronym. We don't have time to go into all those today in such detail, but no worries, because I've created a 15-page document that goes into all 5 components, and you can download it for free. Click on the link in the description below the video, and it'll take you to where you can sign up and download for free. If you found the information in today's video helpful, and maybe you've tried this activity after watching the video, let us know in the comments below. Let us know how it went. Give me a yes if you are excited to try this strategy and this activity. And also, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do, and share this video with your friends. And you can also check out my other video where I go over every component in the STOPS acronym at a high level and let you know what each letter stands for and what effective feedback really looks like. And be sure to check back each week where I give you new content, and be well and be courageous.